Okay. The night when my dad passed away, I went over to his apartment with my mom, and we sat and talked at him and around him, and my brother was on my speakerphone and my sister was on my mom's speakerphone, and we had a really nice conversation for about an hour and a half. And I read him this poem that I wrote for him. Don't know if he could hear it. Don't know if you believe in that kind of thing. But you know, I kind of like to think that he could. I'm going to try to get through it here without getting all blubbery, as my mom would say. So this is called My Dad. When I was young, I could not wait for my dad to come home from work, to greet him at the door and give him a hug, to ride on his back or shoulders. He was strong and tall and blonde. He was larger than life, my dad. When he was young, he lived in the shadows of the steel mills on the south side of Chicago in a Polish neighborhood called Hegwisch. Blue collar, ethnic, gritty. He played stickball on asphalt, my dad. My dad's dad worked at Republic Steel and went from the factory to the corner bar, then home for dinner and went to bed and got up early and did it again. My dad's dad. When my dad was young, his dad got tuberculosis. He was sent to a north side sanitarium a world away to quarantine. My grandmother made a deal with God. If you bring my husband back to me, I'll send my children to Catholic school. My grandpa got better and came home, so off to Catholic school he went, my dad. There he figured out that he was smart, a good student, and my grandma decided he would go to college, the first one in his family to do so. He went to Loyola Chicago, where he studied psychology and was on the bowling team. And then he met my mom and fell in love, my dad. He graduated Loyola in 1962. There was a war in Vietnam going on, so he joined the Army Reserves and went to Fort Leonard Wood. And that was where he was when Kennedy was killed. On alert was my dad. He could not find a job, so he went to grad school. He could not afford to buy a ring, so he got engaged without one. And on November 21st, 1964, at St. Felicita's Catholic Church on the south side of Chicago, my mom married my dad. Because he was good at math and scored well on a test, he went to work in a new field called computers. My parents moved into a small apartment on the west side of the city, and in September 1965, my dad became my dad. The family moved from Chicago to Lombard to Geneva. Computers moved from the size of a room to an Apple II PC in the basement. He got an MBA from the University of Chicago. Did I mention that he was smart? And I got a brother and a sister who also called my dad, my dad. And the years flew by, as they sometimes do. My dad was there for us, in our lives, for games and vacations and movie nights. Steady as a rock, always ready to give advice. Whether or not you wanted to hear it, you did, from my dad. He helped with the founding of Tri-City Soccer. I remember trailing him as he visited business after business, selling them about being the names on the back of t-shirts. These kids wear these shirts everywhere, he would say. And he became the first traveling soccer coach for TCSA, my dad. All his kids went to college and then grad school, expected to follow in his intellectual footprints. As my mom says, they have 3 doctors, a doctor of law, a doctor of philosophy, a doctor of natural medicine. And he was never prouder than when he talked about his kids, my dad. After years of work at IH and CR, he was laid off and had to find a new job at middle age. He spent a summer as an usher with the Kane County Cougars and worked that minimum wage job with the same pride he always did. He landed a second career as a market research analyst. Work did not define him, but he could never be idle, my dad. And then he was a grandfather of 4. The blonde, the brunette, the redhead, the sassy girl, all filled with buckets of personality and, of course, brains. He rarely missed a game, be it baseball, basketball, tennis, or soccer. He saw almost every concert, every award ceremony, every graduation, and won Eagle Court of Honor. He was a constant pillar of love and support. They were the light of his life, and he was their beloved G-Pa, my dad. He traveled as much as he could, dragging my mom along to 49 of 50 states, with only Alaska left unseen. He read constantly, devoured the news channels. He loved science, Star Trek, TV dramas, all sorts of movies, and he loved telling you all that he had learned, my dad. My parents sold their house and moved to Beacon Hill. Mom's choice, as Dad constantly reminded us. But he made friends there through movies, Wii bowling, lectures, and pool. And he loved it there, though he would never admit it. Not my dad. Then last August, the cancer came for him. Pancreatic cancer, the incurable kind. He fought it hard, 6 months of chemo with a hope for surgery which never came. Cancer brought him to his knees, my dad. He went to the hospital at the outset of the pandemic, and no one in the family could visit him. And he was apart from my mom for 6 long weeks. The cancer was too strong, he could no longer eat, and the tall, strong man shrunk to skin and bones. But it could not take his mind, it stayed sharp, and he came home to be with my mom on hospice, my dad. He has lived 80 years, by all accounts, a good life. And I have been blessed to have him as my dad for 55. There's so much to tell him in so little time. He taught us so much, more than we even know. The value of honesty and hard work and your reputation. Never give up, never judge a person by the way they look, to stand up for your beliefs, and to call out bullshit when you see it. These are the lessons learned from my dad. But now it's time to say goodbye and let him go to the other side. To let him know that I love him and I will miss him every day. And how lucky I was to have him as my dad.